Far away from the gates of the palace, in the heart of Ikot City, the prince took on a new identity, Junior, a delivery man for a small local food company called Mama D's Kitchen. The owner, Mama D, was a blunt, no-nonsense widow who, after squinting at his soft hands, muttered, "You better not break down like biscuit when work start." He accepted the job with a wide grin. He was free. His first delivery took him to the university district, where students lived in tight clusters of old apartment blocks. It was here that he met Amaka, a nursing student juggling multiple jobs, caring for her sick mother, and struggling to survive each day. She opened the door in her oversized gown, eyes swollen from lack of sleep. Her voice was soft but weary. "Thank you," she said without even glancing at him. But Izioma couldn't stop staring. Over the following weeks, he found every excuse to deliver to her area, sometimes taking routes that made no logical sense. He noticed how Amaka would sometimes skip meals, how she cared more for her mother than herself, and how she never asked for help. She was different. She was real. One afternoon, after a heavy rain, he found her sitting on the steps of her apartment, her shoes soaked, head down. "You all right?" he asked. She glanced up, surprised. "Yeah. Just tired. The world doesn't stop to ask if you're okay, you know?" "I'm asking," he said quietly. She looked into his eyes for the first time. They weren't the eyes of a delivery man. They were the eyes of someone who had lived behind walls and wanted to escape them. That evening, they talked for hours. He lied, of course, said he was an orphan who grew up in the countryside and came to the city looking for work. "Life's been complicated," he added vaguely. Amaka smiled gently. "You're not like the others." Days turned into weeks. The bond between them deepened. They laughed, argued, shared fears. Izioma was exposed to a world of hardship he had only read about, leaky ceilings, constant blackouts, and the gnawing pain of hunger. Yet, amidst all this struggle, there was beauty. There was Amaka. Then came the fire. One night, a power surge lit up the socket in Amaka's apartment. Flames spread quickly. She managed to drag her mother out, but the entire unit burned to the ground. With nowhere to go, Mama D offered her a small room behind the shop. Izioma was devastated. "I can help," he said, reaching for her hand. She pulled back. "Don't. I don't want pity." "It's not pity. It's love." The word hung between them like thick fog. She blinked, uncertain. "How can you love someone like me?" "Because you've shown me what strength really looks like." That night, they held hands under the moonlight. For the first time in his life, the prince felt truly human. But secrets have a way of clawing their way to the surface. One hot Saturday morning, a black SUV with tinted windows parked in front of Mama D's kitchen. Out stepped Obiora, the palace chief of staff, panting and visibly angry. "What nonsense is this, Your Highness?" he bellowed. Amaka stepped out of the kitchen, confused. "Highness?" Junior, Izioma, froze. "I told you he'd lose his mind if he stayed here too long," Mama D muttered. Obiora continued, "You are the next king of Ndoroko. How can you embarrass the throne like this, posing as a pauper among commoners?" Amaka dropped the tray she was carrying. The crash of metal echoed like thunder. "You lied to me?" she whispered. He tried to approach her, pleading, "Amaka, please listen." But she stepped back. "Everything you told me was a lie." And just like that, the world they had built, brick by brick, came crumbling down. Back at the palace, Izioma sat in silence, his royal robe suffocating him like chains. The throne room, once grand, felt like a golden prison. He had tasted real life. He had fallen in love. And he had lost it. King Udo sighed heavily. "Love is not a game, my son. You cannot trick your way into someone's heart. I didn't trick her. I wanted her to love the real me, not the prince." Then you should have started with the truth. Days turned to weeks. Izioma tried to reach Amaka, flowers, letters, emissaries. Nothing worked. Until one evening, Mama D arrived at the palace, escorted by guards. She handed him a small letter and said, she wrote this. It read, I loved Junior, not Prince Izioma. I loved the man who saw me when I was invisible to the world. But love built on lies will always have cracks, no matter how beautiful the paint. You wanted something real. So did I. But real love begins with truth. Maybe in another life. Izioma stared at the letter for a long time, then folded it carefully, like something sacred. The next morning, he announced at a public gathering, until I find a way to serve this nation with the same humility I learned as a delivery man, I will not sit on this throne. The crowd gasped. The nobles raged. But for the first time, the people cheered. Sometimes, to find something real, you have to lose everything fake. And sometimes, the greatest wealth isn't in gold or titles. It's in being truly seen by someone who doesn't care what you have, only who you are. It had been 3 months since Prince Izioma left his throne empty. He now lived in the heart of the city, not as a prince, not even as Junior the delivery man, but simply as Iz. No drivers, no guards, no privileges. Just a small room he paid for himself. He volunteered at health outreach camps and worked closely with local charities, helping families rebuild after floods and fires. He no longer sought to impress, only to understand. But Amaka was gone. After the fire, she relocated to a new hospital internship far from Ikit City. She had changed her number and left no forwarding address. Izioma thought about her every day, how she smiled with her eyes, how she always gave her last coin for someone else, how she walked like she had mountains on her shoulders but never collapsed under their weight. One afternoon, as he helped load relief supplies into a truck, Mama D appeared at the edge of the parking lot. She removed her headscarf and waved him over. I've seen you trying to become someone worthy of her, she said, wiping sweat from her brow. But you're fighting a war she's no longer watching. Izioma looked down. I just want her to know it was never a joke. She saved me. Mama D nodded. You're not the same boy who came begging for work in polished shoes. You've suffered now. You've earned some pain. She handed him a small folded note. She asked me to give you this only when I thought you were ready. He opened it carefully. Inside was a simple message. If you're ever serious about truth, I'll be volunteering at Ayatoro Children's Hospice every Thursday. No expectations. No masks. His heart pounded. The following Thursday, he made his way to Ayatoro, a modest facility where orphans with terminal illnesses were cared for. It was clean but underfunded, with chipped walls and creaky fans. He saw her instantly, Amaka in a lavender nurse's uniform, braiding a young girl's hair while humming a folk song. She didn't see him at first. But when she did, her eyes did not light up. They observed. You're early, she said without smiling. I've been late for too long, he replied. They didn't embrace. They didn't cry. Instead, she handed him a bowl of water and pointed to a boy on the far bench. Chikwudi has a fever. You'll help me sponge him. For hours, they worked side by side, cleaning wounds, feeding children, changing bedsheets. There was no talk of the palace. No mention of thrones. Just children in need and 2 people trying to be useful. At the end of the day, Amaka sat beside him under the mango tree in the backyard. Why are you really here, Izioma? She asked quietly. I thought I wanted love, he said slowly. But I've realized what I needed first was truth. Not just yours, mine. She nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the horizon. People always say they want something real, but when faced with discomfort, they return to their castles. You stayed. That counts for something. He turned to her. Is there a chance for us? She stood up. There's a chance for healing. Let's start there. And for the first time in months, Izioma smiled, not as a prince, but as a man learning to be whole. Months passed, and every Thursday, Izioma returned to Ayatoro. It wasn't easy work. Some days, children died in their sleep. Other days, they cried out in pain. But in that place of sorrow, he found purpose. He wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. He was simply being useful. Amaka remained guarded, though her walls slowly softened. They shared stories again. They laughed. Sometimes, in quiet moments, she would touch his hand absent-mindedly, but she never called it love. Then, one stormy evening, the palace sent word, King Udo had fallen gravely ill. Izioma stood at Amaka's doorstep, drenched in rain. "They need me to return," he said. "My father may not survive the week." She stared at him. "Will you go back to being a prince?" "I'll go back to being a leader. But not the kind they expect." He hesitated before asking, "Would you come with me?" Amaka looked away. "I can't be a princess, Izioma. I don't know how to bow or curtsy. I won't wear fake smiles." He took her hand. "Then come as my partner. Not for the crown, just for me." She shook her head gently. "Go. Help your people. If it's real, I'll still be here when you return." Izioma arrived at the palace in humble clothes. The guards didn't recognize him at first. His beard was thicker, his skin tanned from work, his hands rough from labor. But his eyes, those same eyes that saw Amaka under the city moonlight, were clearer than ever. King Udo lay frail in bed. His voice was weak. "My son, did you find what you were looking for?" "Yes," Izioma said. "I found what you couldn't give me, truth. And love that didn't come wrapped in gold." The king smiled faintly. "Then maybe you'll rule better than I did." He passed 2 days later, and the nation mourned. The council insisted on a royal coronation immediately. Izioma agreed, on one condition: the ceremony would be held in Ikit City, in the public square, where the people could watch, not from behind palace walls, but face to face. The day of the coronation was unlike any other in the kingdom's history. No silks. No fanfare. Just thousands of citizens gathered to witness a leader rise from among them. And in the front row stood Amaka, arms folded, unsure of what to expect. As the crown was placed on his head, Izioma stepped forward and spoke. "Today, I become king, not because I was born into royalty, but because I've learned what it means to serve. I will not be a ruler who watches from glass towers. I will walk your streets. I will share your struggles. And if love comes my way again, it will not be demanded, it will be earned." Then his eyes met Amaka's. After the ceremony, the royal convoy approached Amaka, inviting her to the palace. She refused politely. "Tell him I said congratulations." But later that night, a single motorcycle rolled into Ayatoro. Izioma stepped off, no guards in sight, no robes, just a man with tired eyes and a hopeful heart. He found her sitting beside a child's bed, humming a lullaby. "You wore the crown well," she said, not looking up. "I wore it for them," he replied. "But this visit, is for me." She finally turned to him. "So what now?" He knelt beside her, not as a proposal, but as a gesture of humility. "Now, I ask, not as a king, but as Is, can we try again?" There was a long silence, filled only with the soft breathing of the sleeping child beside them. Then Amaka whispered, "Only if we start with truth." "Every day." And he nodded. "Every day. Love is not something you wear like a title. It cannot be inherited, bought, or borrowed. It is earned, through honesty, patience, and the courage to be seen as you truly are. In a world obsessed with appearances, may we all dare to love like peasants. So that if we're ever crowned, it is by the heart, not by the crown."